Today's video is a reply to this comment. It was left on one of my repotting videos, and if you've been following me for a while, you will know that I just love repotting, and it is one of my go-to things when I see a succulent struggling. But just like the person commenting here, I also have a few succulents that have been in their pots for many years. My oldest plant in the same pot is about 12 or 13 years old. It's not a young plant, and it's been doing quite well. It looks good. It has settled into its pot, and I usually don't really do anything to it. But I would really like to discuss this comment from a few different points of views. First, I would just like to dissect it and then have a look at different succulents that have not been repotted for a while and address a few variables such as the cultivar, the climate, and the size of the pot. I think these are the most important points to have a look at. But first, let's have a look at this comment at face value. So first of all, in my videos, I often generalize, otherwise my videos would go on forever. I don't think of one specific genus or one specific group of succulents. I try and take a holistic approach and just look at the most and take it from the point of view that would work for most succulents, not just a couple. So to say that a succulent has been in the same pot for over 30 years, well, that's great, and I really love that. But Cula is a very large genus. It is quite different from other succulent types. Now, second of all, I cannot account for all of the variables of everyone on this earth growing succulents. We all live in different climates, we experience different weather, and things like the potting mix, the position, whether the plant grows outside or inside, in sun, shade, dappled light, this will all affect how the plant grows. So I try to apply my knowledge. I've been growing succulents commercially for over 10 years. I've grown well over 400 different cultivars of succulents and keep growing more. Whenever there's a new cultivar, a new hybrid on the market, I get it and I test it out, see how it grows. So I do have a bit of experience, however, it is limited to my location. So I live in Sydney, Australia, and the climate here is very different to other people. However, I do know quite a few nursery owners, and a lot of them have had nurseries in other countries, and so I do try to apply the knowledge that I have learned from them, and then I try and have a look on the internet, on forums, and see what people in other climates are experiencing with their succulents. But I do acknowledge that I am limited to my location and to the experience that I've had in this particular location. But I think a lot of my advice is still applicable to most people and to most succulents, though it is quite natural that there will be quite a few people that will have different experiences from me. So now that we've got this out of the way, I would like to have a look at different types of succulents that have not been repotted for quite some time. So what it really comes down to is, what do you want out of your succulents? Many succulents do not have to be repotted very often. Some can be left in the pot for years, many years, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, but not all of them. The term succulent describes a very broad range of plants, and not all of them are the same. I can think of a fair few succulents that would struggle and even die if they weren't repotted, and here's a few examples. So these plants are from my table of shame, where I just dump plants that I don't want to deal with at that particular point in time, but sometimes I do forget about them and they just kind of keep living there for some of them for years. Most of these plants are about, I'd say maybe 3-4 years old. They have been in the same pot for that time, and I haven't really touched them. So we've got an agavoid Euphorbia, super duper root bound. It's still alive, and you know, it's not looking too bad, but you can see that it is dropping leaves. You can definitely make this look a little bit nicer. Take the leaves off and it will immediately look a lot better. So if you don't mind your plants looking like this, then you know, you don't have to repot as often. Now let's have a look at this Senecio. Again, not looking too bad. Super root bound. It is losing leaves, but again, if you take them off, I reckon it can stay in this pot for another few years, and it will probably be reduced to just a few leaves up the top here. But yeah, this is what it would probably look like for most of its time. It will not grow much. Normally these guys grow to a good meter and they spread out, they branch out, but this plant will not do that. It will stay this small. I haven't seen it grow for quite some time now, so this is what will also happen with some succulents that are kept in the same pot for a long time. They will cease growing and they can actually go backwards. So this Euphorbia, for instance, was much bigger than what it is now. Okay, so this is another Euphorbia. I'm not even sure what it is, but look at how tall it is. So it's got a trunk on it where it stores water. This is another thing that can happen to succulents that are not repotted. The stem or a trunk, whatever, will grow quite thick, and also the leaves on the top will grow thicker and more compact. Now normally this Euphorbia would very possibly grow lower to the ground, but yeah, this is what it ends up looking like. Now here we have a Aloe, maybe Gasteria, also a few years old. I can't even remember when I've put this on my to-do table, but yeah, you can see the roots poking out. It's got some dead leaves and it's tiny. This thing can grow 10 times the size of this, but because it's in this one pot, it will probably stay this one size. Now let's go to a Cula. So this is Cula sarmentosa. It is a few years old. It's very, like, when you squeeze the pot of a root bound plant, it is really hard, and it's a trailing plant, but you can see the stalk at the base is quite bare and it will keep losing leaves. We've got these guys here, and I don't think it will grow much more than this. So let's have a look at an Aeonium. Now you can see how thick this is, and all the aerial roots just trying to find new source of nutrients. This guy would normally be quite big, so they can grow to, I don't know, 20 centimeters in diameter. And yeah, this is what it will stay like. It is unlikely that it will have babies. It's just one here, but I don't think it will grow any bigger than that. It is very likely to just die off. And same for this plant. I don't think it will grow bigger than this. Now we've got another Euphorbia, and same thing. This one is definitely not happy with being in the same pot and is slowly dying. I don't think it will last much longer, and the next set of heat waves next year, next growing season, will likely finish this off. Now let's have a look at a Portulacaria. This is a very old plant. I think it's about 6 or 7 years old. I haven't really been looking after this. It's just been sitting in the corner of the nursery, and like, as you can see, it's just kind of a very bare-ish stalk. Bare. I mean, it's alive and there's some nice leaves on it, and with a bit of care it would probably bounce back quite nicely. but if you don't look after it, this is what you'll get. Okay, I'll show you some other ones. So excuse the surroundings, we are currently renovating this part of the house, but I just wanted to show you this Euphorbia Millie. It is about 10 years old and it doesn't grow much, but look how majestic it is. It's been in this same pot for a very, very long time, and oh my god, look at this. Hello, hi, praying mantis, I think. Oh, I love these guys. Anyway, so yeah, these guys can grow much bigger, but I am quite happy with what this plant looks like. It's currently losing leaves because here in the southern hemisphere we're going into winter, so it always loses leaves for winter and then they grow back in spring. But yeah, the flowers always come up. Look at them, they're beautiful. And yeah, I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing of it is dying or suffering. But yeah, look at that trunk. It's just absolutely huge here. But yeah, so this is a good 10-year-old plant. I'll have tried to take it out of its pot once, but it's just I would have to break the pot, try and pick at the roots, but I didn't really want to do that. And you know, it's just looking nice, so I'm going to keep it there and see how we go. I'm confident that it can stay in here for many years to come, maybe even 30 years, so you know, definitely doable. Okay, so another pot I want to show you is this Graptopetalum Veria. It is many years old as well. I forget when I planted it in, but just look at that, and it still looks nice, and I think it looks quite artistic, really. But again, it's not growing very much. The little pups do grow just a tiny bit every year, but this is what it's looked like for the last couple of years. And you know, it will probably live for another few years. If I repotted it, these guys would get bigger and I would get a lot more rosettes, but yeah, I'm a bit too lazy. But yeah, definitely possible to keep plants like this in the same pot for a few years. There's a lot of these Graptopetalums or Graptopetalum hybrids are super hardy, and you don't really have to do anything with them. As long as they've got enough light, they will just grow well. Now moving on to this pot, which is a little Sedum. It used to be really lush, like the rosettes would overflow the pot and it was just gorgeous. But now it's just, the soil is just so hard, and you can see this, just the remnants of it, like it's there just trying to survive, but there's just no space for it to grow, and there's no nutrients that would sustain its growth. So you know, all of this dead, and this little last bit is still surviving. And I think if you've never seen a redback, now look at this. This is, I nearly went in there with my finger today. This would be a redback just down here. I'm not going to disturb it much more than this, but yeah. They are absolutely everywhere here, and I don't mind, they do their thing and I let them be. Okay, another example is this Cula. I think it's ladyfingers. Now look at that. Hello, Pep. He just loves to be the center of attention. Okay, so this is at least 8 years old, so it came to me when it was quite old, some 6 years ago, and I'm pretty sure in total it would be well over 8 years. So you can see how thick this trunk is. It's just huge. And again, this plant is not growing very much. It's been the same for the last few years, and you can see this, it's struggling a little bit, but I think if I just keep it here, keep it in this pot, it will live for a good few years. maybe even a couple of decades. I don't know. Well, we shall see. But yeah, definitely possible to have Crassulas like these. Crassula, especially the Crassula ovata cultivars, are just perfect for pots, and they will stay in one pot for many years. Now let's move on to this guy here. So this here is an aloe. It normally grows huge, this guy, but I think it's struggling a little bit in this pot. It's been here for some time, maybe 4 or 5 years, I would say. And yeah, these pups have not grown in the last few years. They kind of came up and then that's it. Now this is what that aloe, this is the same cultivar, what they normally look like. Look at all of those pups going all the way there. These, look at it, it's huge and it will grow further. So, you know, definitely possible to keep it in the pot for many years, but it may well struggle. Now I'd like to talk about the size of the pot. So in my experience, bigger the pot, the longer the plant will last. I think it's quite obvious. This Crassula is in a huge pot. Thanks, Pep. And it's been there for many years again. I'd say a good 5+. I don't think it would have grown as nicely if it was in a smaller pot, like say, you know, maybe 10 to 15 centimeters in diameter. I would say after maybe 2-3 years, here's another one, it would start struggling. It would probably live, but it will have a lot more yellowing, dying leaves. This guy looks quite nice and lush. It's big, and while it's not going to grow much more now, it looks great. You know, I'm really happy with this plant and I won't be touching it for the next few years. Okay, and just the last pot that I want to show you, I planted this when we moved here 8 years ago, and this is what it looks like. It was a crested fred ives, so you can see there's still a few crested bits here, but it's reverted back in parts. But it's, you know, it's nice and big. However, the rosettes are quite small and it's not growing. When we were in drought a few years back, it was struggling badly. I think that's another thing about keeping plants in the same pot without repotting it. They don't have any nutrients, and when weather extremes hit, they may die just because they are struggling for nutrients and space. I have seen it happen in smaller pots, not so much in big ones, but it can definitely happen. A lot will depend on where you live. If, you know, with climates like ours, we can grow succulents out here, out in the open, pretty much all year round. We do get heat waves of over 40 degrees Celsius in summer, and it really takes its toll on many succulents. But in winter there's no snow, no frost. At least where I am, there's definitely parts of Australia where you do get frost and snow, but not here. Many succulents that would normally be completely dormant in winter are still growing, so we get a lot of rapid growth. And because of this, I can grow plants like this in a year, almost a year. But if you are in a climate with harsh winters where succulents would have to go indoors to overwinter and the growing season is fairly short, you know, this could take maybe 2 or 3 years. Some people might never even get to this point. So the climate and the weather do affect how succulents will grow and how well they will do in the same pot. So in climates that have shorter growing season, they may last much longer in the same pot than succulents here where they pretty much grow most of the year. So that really makes a difference as well. I do hope that I answered this person's query or comment enough for them to understand why I say things that I say in my videos and where I'm coming from. So yeah, you can definitely grow succulents in pots for a long time, but it really depends what you want from them and how you want them to look. If you want beautiful big lush plants like this that don't have any dead leaves and keep growing year on year, season on season, then I would suggest repotting quite regularly. It doesn't have to be into a new pot, you just need to take it out of its current pot and then replace just that bit, maybe 10% of its current potting mix with new potting mix. If you put it in a bigger pot, it will definitely grow bigger and faster. But if you don't mind it getting a few dead leaves and not growing very fast, then you may be able to keep it in one size pot pretty much all of its life, and that's okay too. You know, people want different things from their plants and you do whatever makes you happy. So yeah, I think that would be the conclusion of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments and I will see you all next time.